back here looking at putting this shark into this reef scene, and we just traced it out and brought it back in to this photo right here. I'm going to zoom in. Just like Illustrator, I'm pressing space and then command, and then Photoshop gives me an area that I drag into. This shark looks not very good. I missed on a couple spots, but it gets that shark cut out pretty quickly. Okay, there's a number of things that I can do here. I can click on the mask layer, then get my brush, pressing B with my black color up here. I can now go over here and we can go over this shark and then just smooth out these edges right here. He's still looking a little lumpy. Now if you use the pen tool, you could get it really nice and smooth, and you do all your pen tool work first, and then you don't have to do all this little touch-up stuff later. Okay, so we could go around and touch this guy up. We probably need to bring some points back here. I'll make this a little smaller, tweak things up a little bit, and make his fin real nice. Okay, so we could do that. We'll zoom out here real quick. We could do that to the shark, but also we can use, we double click on this mask layer, we get our mask properties, and the mask properties will show you about your mask that is around the selected mask object. Okay, so the view right now is just the shark. I'm going to change it to this overlay. So the pink, actually kind of a opaque red, is the mask. And so if I change some of these options right here, if I change the smooth, you can see it's just going to creep in a little bit and just smooth out some of these edges. It's smoothing out right there. So if I leave that just all the way at 1, it's going to create a harsh line right there. I'm going to just smooth this out by 6 pixels. It's going to help me smooth out my shape. It'll move it in. And I can also shift the edge of my mask. I can shift it this way, and I bring the mask edge out away from the shark, or I can bring it, oh no, sorry, the other way was in. I bring this way, the mask edge, you can see I'm now gaining back some of this material that was behind the shark. I'm going to shift the edge in a little bit because I missed on a lot of those areas. Now it's coming in a little bit tighter. I'm going to smooth this out a little bit more. You can also adjust the feather at this point. And we talked about adjusting this feather at 2 pixels. Now look at that. It looks like a bit too much. Go down to 1 pixel. See what that looks like. 1 pixel looks okay. It's just going to settle it in, and that actually might be blurry because it's in the water. For now, I don't know. I think 0.6 might be just nice. Okay, and then you can mess with the contrast as well. Okay, that is fully editable all the time. And if I want to go back there, I can double-click that section and change those options again. Okay, click OK on that, and there we go. So now my shark is starting to settle in there a little bit more. So it looks like he's combined there in this photo. He's lurking, eating one of these fish or something like that. So we've selected that shark, we've used the marquee and the lasso, we've looked at mask options. Okay, and with the mask options, I just want to review this. With this view mode right here, this is just how you view it. This has nothing to do with the actual mask. This is just your preference. Okay, so if you change to black on white, the black part is what's not being shown, the white part is what is being shown. Mess with those views, or you can have it this way so you can see your masked object that way. I don't know why, but I just like this. I've always used that. You can use the marching ants as well. I like to see the edge, so on white or this overlay, you can just see the edge if you zoom in. I like that a lot, but feel free to choose any of those. It just is your preference as you're editing this. Then you click OK or cancel, you go back to this. Now let's imagine that this is a magazine spread and we want to add a big header up here. Let's go get our text right here, and we'll put in some text, and we'll put in one of some, let's type out Great Barrier Reef. Great Barrier Reef. I'm going to select all that text, press Command A, move this to left justified, just crank up my text here. It's showing I'm pressing the period, it's actually just the right bracket, same key. I'm just using some shortcuts to move the text in right here. Okay? Alright, so tweak that text just a little bit. I have Great Barrier Reef right here, and let's pretend this is like a 2-page spread. I can also just click that, and oops, I don't need to hold down Shift. Photoshop changed that. It'll scale it for you. That's nice. Let's bring this in so it's not quite in that shadow. or in that glare right here, so we can read reef. Okay, boom, Great Barrier Reef. It's like a magazine spread, as if this was the middle of the magazine. That'd be kind of cool. Okay, now we're back to this image. Let's make a copy of this background. Move this down right here, turn this off. Let's pop this fish right in front of Great Barrier Reef, in front of the text, just to make it a little more visually engaging and dynamic. Okay, so remember we can use these different tools. I'm going to just grab a quick selection of, let's use just the lasso tool. Okay, just the lasso tool, and what I'm going to do is make a copy of this photo layer right here, and I'm going to move it on top of the text. So it looks like Great Barrier Reef is moving behind. So I just need to copy this fish right here. I'm just going to go around it, give it enough berth, and then go right around here. Okay, and here we go. We will copy and then just Command V, paste that in front. It is in front of this layer. Now let's drag that layer in front right there. Boom, and there we go. Okay, that's in front. I have that information. I just copied that really quickly, but I just did a quick selection, so that doesn't look the best. With this layer selected, first let's rename this layer. Double click that and just type out fin. Let's rename our layer, turn the caps lock off. Just call it fin to keep things organized. And then we'll click on the mask. Oops, okay, now we'll click on the mask and we'll add a little mask, and we'll take some of this away. Get my brush and make this brush a little larger and take some of this edge away right here. That'd be really nice. Okay, just quickly tweak that edge away so we see some of the lettering, and we reveal that so you can still reveal and see enough of that word. Like if we leave a little bit of blue, that's okay. But that helps the text to pop and just be engaging. There we go, Great Barrier Reef, and look, our fish is, one fin is in front, one fin is behind, creates a nice dynamic image. That's kind of nice. It's a fun little trick to be able to do that. But all it is really, let's just move this layer. I just copied that layer from behind and moved it to the front. Okay, and then I masked off part of it. Okay, before we go any further, let's select this fin layer, and we'll talk about grouping. This is really simple, but you select the fin layer, shift click on Great Barrier Reef text layer, and press Command G. Okay, and there you go. Those grouped now. Took a second. We'll double click on that group name and we'll type out title. Group that right here, and then let's put this in the background. So we'll group those, and we'll call this the background. It's always important to group things logically that way. Okay, so that's good right there. Okay, so we've done the document size, we've done cropping, grouping layers, the marquee and lasso, mask options. We haven't added a shape yet, but let's add a shape and then just remind you of the clone stamp really quickly. Let's tackle the clone stamp. We'll get in here. So the clone stamp, if you remember, will clone objects and repeat them. So if we have this clone stamp here, let's make sure we're stamping on a layer. We can't stamp on a group. Have to stamp on a layer. So let's create this layer right here. But remember, we're not just going to select this source and then make another bubble right there, and then make another bubble right there, and go from there. Oh, let's select this source. There you go. Make another bubble right there. That is destroying our image. Ooh, we don't want to do that. We don't want to destroy our image. Okay, so let's go back to this layer, create a new layer. So we have layer 1 that's just blank. There's nothing there. Now I have my clone stamp tool, and I'm up here on this little option. I select there's current layer, current and below, and all layers. I'm going to select current and below layer. So now when I select this little bubble, just to add a few more little bubbles to this scene, it kind of changes the color, doesn't look the best. Let's keep it in the same tone over there. That's just to add a few more bubbles. That's kind of nice. It'll freshen up the image, just because there's lots of bubbles in water and people like bubbles, so we'll just add some of those in. We could fix up some of these fish or remove some of their stripes a little bit, but we'll just kind of add a few little bubbles right there. Okay, just to practice using the clone stamp. Do one more right over here. Look, there's lots of bubbles. That's nice. Okay, but now I have, if I turn off this layer, those bubbles go away. So I didn't destroy or alter this image. I just copied them, I clone stamped them from this other layer below. Okay, now keeping in the same vein of a magazine spread, let's make a little call out right here and just put a little text for what this magazine spread's all about. So let's go down here to our shape panel, and scroll over and get a rectangle. Let's click and drag a rectangle. See, it drags from the middle. Photoshop does that. I don't know why, but it does. I'm going to hold down Option to click and drag from the corner and just make a little shape box right here. We could probably do this in InDesign too, but we'll do it this way. We'll add a little box. You see we've got the box color. Double click on that box. We can change the box color right here, or eyedrop and select a color. It might be nice to do that, eyedrop and select a color. Or just go with something simple and white. We don't want people to think it's water. I'm just going to go with this black. That's what National Geographic are doing. They're doing pretty well. Also, if I double click on that layer on the side, I'm going to do this again on the side of this layer, not on the name, not on there, but on the side, you get some layer options. You can blend this layer, but you can also add a stroke. So I'm just going to add a tiny little stroke to this box just to cement it in there. Actually, what we can do, we'll add a little bit of a stroke, just a thin stroke right here so people know that this box is there. National Geographic, if they were doing this, they would not have a stroke on there. 0. Oh, okay, you need one or the other. Okay, let's uncheck stroke. There we go. And then let's see, let's gradient overlay, outer, inner shadow. We have satin, color overlay right here, drop shadow. Okay, drop shadows are bad, right? Well, they're bad in certain instances, but sometimes they're okay. We can add a little drop shadow just to add a little feel to this. So as though this text box is here and it's live, so you can see if you play with the distance, the shadow gets a little larger. And let's change the spread so it spreads out and is a little softer. Bring that in just a little bit. Okay, and then we can change the size of the shadow as well, just to integrate it into the image just a little bit, which is nice. Okay, let's soften this down a little bit, the spread. Okay, there, nice. And we have a box with text on there, and it just has a little drop shadow in there. Now we got our text tool again. And let's click and drag a text box this time. And oh, sweet, so lorem ipsum, that's 136 point. That's really large. Let's change this to 10 point. Let's maybe 12. 12 would be better. There you go, 12, and the text is white. That's still really small because this image is big. Let's just make this even a little bit bigger. Let's say 24, just for demo purposes. There we go. There's some lorem ipsum right there. And I'm just going to copy this and then paste it one more time so we actually have a fair amount of text. And there we go. We have a magazine spread with Great Barrier Reef, and then our text box right there that we've set up in Photoshop. Yeah, we're set to go. Now, the only other last thing we can do is if we wanted to add any color or add a color overlay to this, let's say in front of this Great Barrier Reef right here, just to help it pop a little bit. It's a little hard to see, so let's add a shape. I'll drag this from the corner, press Option, and then we'll add this shape right here, this black shape, and then let's change these properties right there. Let's move this rectangle behind the title. Actually, we probably should move this into the title. Let's move that into the title. Oh, it's above our fish though. Where's our fish layer? Let's move that fish layer down. There's Great Barrier. Oh, it's in that. Did I not move this there? Oh, that's a rectangle. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's into the group. There we go, rectangle. Now it's below the text, but it should still be in our group. Is it not grouping there? Okay, there we go. That'll be good. No, let's just move it back down here. There we go. That's nice. Oh, it's behind our image now. Okay, it's going to be above that image. I forgot about that. We're going to have to add more to that image right there. Okay, we'll add more to that here in a second. But let's select this, and then we'll change this blend mode. So you can blend these different layers to create different overlays, which is really kind of nice. So if I just want a slight subtle overlay to make this text pop a little bit more, I can choose most likely one of these overlays. Overlay or soft light for this kind of image would be really good. Soft light would be nice. The overlay does different things with different filters. Okay, I'm actually going to make this even just a little larger. Press Enter to apply that transformation. Now I'm going to make a mask on this, get my brush, and select a soft round brush. Make my brush size larger, and just soften this up. There we go. Just kind of mask this to soften it up a little bit. And now it just helps that text pop a little bit. You wouldn't even know. There you go. It just helps it pop just a little bit. That fin's going over the top of there. That's still nice. There we go. See, it's right there. That was before. Helps the text pop just a little bit. I should probably take that layer and then drop the opacity down just a hair, so not so harsh, but it still helps it pop. Just a nice subtle feel is a good thing to do. Okay. So there we go. We've covered everything for this lesson. We've covered the document size, cropping, grouping of layers, marquee and lasso, mask options, shapes, a clone stamp again, adding text, and blend modes. Okay, these are some essential components to Photoshop. Feel free to go back and watch this video again and review these topics.